motivational card.
What? Yeah.
Let's see here.
What is today's card for the episode?
Today's card is exhale the bullshit. Everybody breathe in, breathe in, breathe out. Exhale the bullshit.
Ice cream in my mouth, so it's really hard to do right now.
It's hard to exhale the bullshit.
It's hard to exhale the bullshit with Cherry Garcia in your mouth.
Ooh. Yeah. I have White House
like
cherry.
White House cherry.
I don't like cherries, but Dylan got it for me because I couldn't eat anything because of my throat. And I felt bad for like not liking it, so like I'm forcing the cherries down my throat.
Just eat around it. When I was little, I used to eat the cookies and cream cookie dough. And I don't like the chocolate chips. I would eat the ice cream. Listen, before you make that face at me, listen. I would eat the ice cream.
This is the girl who eats raw cookie dough now.
Right, but listen.
Amazing.
I would eat the chocolate chips around and the ice cream around it, and then I would leave the cookie dough for last because it was like the best.
Yeah, it is.
I also do that with like certain candies. I'll eat the gross ones first, so I have the good ones after, like to wash it all down.
That's right.
Eat something bad with something good, so it like cancels it out.
Yes, yeah.
My goodness.
Like I have to eat the orange and the yellow Sour Patch Kids first because they're not my favorite.
The same.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do.
And then the blue and the red, they have to be.
They're the best. Those are the best.
They are the best. Or Starburst, it's pink and red. They're last.
They're pretty damn good.
So we're inhaling good shit and exhaling bullshit.
That's right.
Okay. You can inhale all the shit you want.
I don't want to inhale any shit. So I am talking about Moll Derry. I'm so excited. I had this done, like, I had this written up last year around Halloween. So I'm very, very, very excited. I love that you're wearing your witch hat.
Jay is in the living room watching anyway, he's watching a television show, and this woman, she's dressed in like a cloak, and she's got like the long hair, and she's like weird, you know, eccentric. And I said to Jay, when I get old, that's what I'm gonna look like. And then she laughed like a witch, and I was like, yes.
Oh my gosh. I've been listening to the Skyrim soundtrack pretty much all day, so like I'm very like
I remember there's a video that they redid the. Sorry, I was still a big way of ice cream. Oh no! So there is a video done online about the opening scene of Skyrim, where they redid it instead of what was it, the dragon? It was Thomas the Tank Engine.
Oh my gosh. They can't destroy Skyrim. Like, that's one of my...
I love with that video.
That is one of the best video games that I have ever played.
Okay. I used to call it something.
Yeah, we're not saying it. Anyways, we're going to be talking about Moll Derry. And witches from Pennsylvania. When you think of witches, you usually think of like Salem, England, you know, but decades after the American Revolution in Fayette County, Pennsylvania, rumors and stories were told of a woman who was said to contain mysterious powers. Ooh. Locals believed the woman could see into the future, and as her reputation grew, people that were desperate and in need of healing or protection came to the woman. People also believed that she could help them find missing money, animals, belongings, and they also believed that she could fly because, let's be honest, what witch cannot fly?
That's right. I can fly.
I believe
Just
that's love.
just on the full moon. I haven't mastered any of the other moon phases yet.
Oh, no. I fly daily.
Daily. I'm jealous. So
You can't all be wonderful like me.
all right, rub it in. The Witch of Monongahela, or Mary Derry, or as everyone called her, Moll Derry, lived in rural. I hate that word, by the way. Rural.
Rural.
It's so awkward. It's tongue twister. Anyways,
It's almost like the word moist. It's one of those words. It's weird.
you know that word doesn't bother me.
It's an
I know
uncomfortable word.
a lot of people are like, ew, but it doesn't bother
You know
me.
what word I hate?
What?
Total topic. Worcestershire.
Oh,
I saw
yeah.
some
That's
call
a
it
really hard word.
Worcester sauce.
Yeah.
So now that's what I call it. Worcestershire sauce.
Wash your
sister.
sister.
Worcestershire instead of wash your sisters.
Yeah. Worsh. Yeah.
So speaking of witches, I have my familiar coming in. So she'll be popping up, I'm sure. But
I thought you locked her out.
I did, but Chris just let her in, so she'll be
Thanks, Chris.
joining us here soon. But anyways, she lived in rural George's Township in Haydentown, which is a small town near Uniontown. Do any of these places sound familiar to you?
Yes.
Just Uniontown.
Just Union.
So her reputation was a bit more ominous and was like she was known not to be crossed. In fact, it is said the local farmers who angered her had a series of unfortunate events, and I'm not talking about Lemony Snicket over
I
here.
hated that movie.
What?
Hated it. Absolutely hated it. The books
Jim Carrey, the books were good. Jim Carrey, I thought, was good, but Neil Patrick Harris did a very, very good job on Netflix. Okay, well, anyways, I'm not talking about Lemony Snicket over here.
There she is.
Events.
I
There
see
she
a
is,
lemon.
my familiar. Their cows. Oh, yeah, she's got this new fascination with pawing
with herself,
or if
she's
Loki goes
lonely.
outside, she likes to do something else. So their cows were not producing milk. Bad crop season led to financial ruin.
Okay, well, if they don't keep the cows pregnant, they won't make milk.
Well, yeah, but what about their bread not rising?
Well, maybe their yeast was bad.
Or maybe their sourdough starter wasn't great.
Maybe. There's all sorts of reasons why. Why are you gonna blame it on poor Molly Doll?
Or Molly.
I don't know. I know.
So her
Moll Derry. Yeah.
Moll Derry.
Anyway, unwanted visitors were warded off by rattlesnakes that she could control, which sounds so cool. I wish I could tell the snake, you know.
So she was like the Pied Piper of rattlesnakes.
She's parcel tongue.
Really?
She's probably related to Voldemort somehow.
Yeah, he who we shall not speak of. You just said his name.
It's okay.
Who?
Voldemort.
She said it again.
It's like Beetlejuice.
Don't say it 3 times.
If you say he who shall not be named. Yeah. Okay. Harry Potter.
Next, you're gonna tell me Bloody Mary's real.
Oh, yeah.
So she could control snakes. People who were deemed her enemies were even more unfortunate, and more than once they would wind up dead. Locals also believe she portrayed some sort of dark hero, so she's like Batman, but not really. because this takes place in the late 1700s, early 1800s, it is pretty difficult to pinpoint a accurate historical account. But Mary or Moll Derry, Mary Moll Derry, we'll just call her Moll just for, you know, just to be simple. She was described as a petite woman, and throughout the years, descriptions of her appearance changed. And eventually, she would be described as more hag like.
Well, I mean, she got old. I mean, young people are cute, and then as you get older, you kind of get more hag-like. So,
Well, maybe she was like Ronald Dahl's witches. You know how they were really
oh
pretty?
yeah, yeah.
And then they like shed their skins and they were like really ugly and hag like. Maybe that's what was going on.
Well, she was just old.
I
She lived a hard
I'm
life.
maybe, I'm sure she did.
I'm sure she
Some
did.
of the most some of the more well-known and popular stories attributed to Moll Derry are the three hanged men, the murdered peddler, and the story of Polly Williams. Oh wait, no, sorry. The story of Polly Williams and the lost children of the Alleghenies. So there's four stories that are attributed to Moll Derry.
So, did the peddler steal from her? Because, I mean, if the peddler stole from her, she has every right to consequence him.
I'm going to read to you what the story is.
I'm excited. This is my
The
excited
one
face.
This is my excited face. Polly Williams is pretty sad, but I mean, so is the lost children of the Alleghenies. But
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to that one.
the story of the three hanged men is the most frequently, like, it's the story that's most frequently attributed to Moll Derry. It took place in Haydentown in 1794 or 1795. The story goes, three men mocked Moll Derry's ability to see into the future. Moll Derry turned towards the men, cursing them and telling them that they would all hang. You will all hang, she said.
Go,
And
girl.
it did not take long for the first man to go to the gallows.
Hmm.
John McFall in 1795 was in a drunken rage when he killed a tavern keeper.
Well, then he deserved to go hang from a tree. Yeah.
It is said John McFall tore off the establishment's door and beat the man with a club. He was convicted of murder and he was the first man to be hung or hanged in Fayette County. It says hanged, but hung sounds better. I know English it's supposed to be hanged, but fast forward.
He was well hung, is what you're saying.
No, he was hung or hanged from the gallows.
Well, it was well with his soul.
Fast forward a few years later in 1800, it also says 1818 or 1819. Ned Cassidy, there is two spellings, Cassidy or Casedy. He helped a man named John Updike. Together they robbed and murdered a peddler from New Jersey traveling through Pennsylvania. John Updike invited the peddler to stay at his house, and the peddler reluctantly agreed. While wishing to get his future read by Moll Derry, he was coming to Pennsylvania to get his future read.
So the peddler was coming to see Moll Derry.
Yes.
And he stayed at Updike's house.
Yes. And together, the men led the peddler out into the woods. They robbed him of all of his money and they murdered him. They drug and hid his body in a pond at Rubel's Mill, and the next day the peddler's body was found. Some people of the community suspected the murderers were John Updike and Ned Cassidy, though they were never arrested due to the lack of witnesses and there was no direct proof. Ned Cassidy was struggling to sleep a few nights later and started feeling guilty. His conscience would not let him sleep, so he thought he would approach Moll Derry to help. Moll Derry, sorry. I wrote Moll Derry, but Moll Derry to help, hoping for a potion or a medicine. Instead, she was no help to the man, and he fled the area, going into West Ohio.
Well, she had already cursed him.
Right. He
Why would
ended
she
up
help
murdering. Right. Well, I'm sure he didn't remember him mocking her, but
Don't
I don't
mock me
know.
around, die.
He ended up murdering yet another man, this time in a bar fight, and he went to the gallows. He confessed to the murder of the peddler in Fayette County. So the third man, who is usually unnamed, heard of these hangings, and he traveled to Greene County and hung himself, and that fulfilled the curse. I don't know what happened to John Updike, because John Updike seemed... Oh wait, no, I do know what happens to John Updike. Sorry, I'm jumping ahead. The names of the men were changed depending on the source. Butler, Daughtry, and Flanagan are also given, so the story remains the same. They make fun of her. The first man goes to the gallows, and the second one goes to the gallows, and the third one goes and hangs himself. It's the same. The names just change. Again, it's so far in the past that historical documents are kind of hard to come up with something accurate. But remember how I was saying I didn't know what happened to John Updike?
Yeah, I remember you said that.
Yeah, I lied.
You liar, 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 pants on fire.
I get doomed.
I know. Look, it has been since October since anyways. He had a more unfortunate end, and it was more painful than the other three. There was another witch in the area, and people believe that was to be Moll Derry's apprentice, and she earned her magical skills from Moll Derry. And her name was Hannah Clark. Not long after the murder, a prominent citizen of the area came to Hannah Clark and showed her a drawing of John Updike. She showed them a sketch of Ron Updike hanging on the back of her door that was sticking out of the door from a nail. It wasn't
So
quite all the way in.
Hannah had drawn a picture of John Updike?
Yes. And she had hung his picture on her door, and there was a nail sticking out of it.
Oh, so he was well hung too.
Yeah, I guess you can say that.
Mm-hmm.
She explained once the nail was fully through the drawing and into the door, John Updike would die. So every day she was going out and tapping that nail into the drawing and into that door a little more every day. And every day he was suffering more and more and more. The man visited this prominent figure. He went and visited John Updike, and John Updike was said to be complaining. Gosh, you are not coordinated at all. No one alike. He was complaining of John Updike. He was complaining of pain in his head. As weeks passed, that nail was slowly getting pushed further and further into the drawing and into the door, and John Updike's condition kept getting worse and worse and worse and worse. Finally, it was so bad that he was unable to sleep, and he remained bedridden and terrified of being alone. After weeks of agonizing pain, John Updike found himself in a state of delirium, where he finally admitted to murdering the peddler. So that peddler in the first story is the peddler in the murdered peddler.
Ah, okay.
Mm-hmm. When Hannah heard of this confession, she went right out to her door, took her hammer, and she went and smashed
Finish the
that.
job.
She finished the job. The nail went the rest of the way through the door and the drawing, and it ended John Updike's life.
Bastard.
Rest in pieces, John Updike.
Rest in pieces, yes. So this one is Polly Williams. Find Your Grave is awesome because this story is I don't know how much truth is behind it, but there was a woman named Polly Williams, and she does it's alluded that she does die the way that the story goes. So there is also the tragic story of Polly Williams, and that is tied to the Witch of Monongahela, Moll Derry. Polly was said to be a beautiful and attractive young woman from New Salem. Because her family was not wealthy, she worked as a servant in the household of Jacob Moss. While working there, she met a man named Philip Rogers, and Philip Rogers was the wealthy son of Jacob Moss's neighbor. Immediately, these two hit it off, sparks flew, and they were in a romance that lasted several years. Polly's family, assuming that the two would get married, moved away in 1808. So it was Polly just was left by herself. And Polly stayed in Fayette County. Philip did propose to Polly, but it never ended in a wedding. Instead, time passed, and despite promises of marriage, the two still were not married. So one day in 1810, Polly and a friend came across Moll Derry or Moll Pry. I read a book, and it's called Witch of Monongahela, and the author says that there's like multiple people who could have been Moll Derry because this is going back this is going back 2 episodes. When we went and did the genealogy deep dive in my family, I had Reccoladini, then I had Riccoladino, then I have Batiste. Yeah. So there's a lot of names that don't add up, but they're supposed to be the same person. Anyways, Polly and the friend came across Moll Derry or Molly Pry, and Polly was warned not to go to the White Rocks with Philip. Moll Derry or Pry foresaw Polly being thrown off the cliffs to the rocks below.
Now, Philip was the man she was supposed to marry.
Yes.
But why? What was it? Something about why milk the cow when you get the milk for free or something? What's that saying?
I don't know.
Why milk the cow when you can get the cow? I don't know.
I don't know, something like that. Yeah.
Something about cows and milk.
Well, anyway, dairy makes me think of ice cream and milk. So.
Polly was disturbed by the encounter and confided in Mrs. Moss. And fearing for Polly's safety, Mrs. Moss advised Polly to call off the engagement and stop seeing Philip.
Yeah, because he's gonna kill you, girl.
Unfortunately,
don't listen, right?
Yeah, she does not listen.
She is What's up with these young girls?
She was too in love, and she couldn't imagine her life without Philip.
Yeah, and then he threw her off the White Rocks, right?
In the summer of 1810, Philip was finally ready for marriage.
No, not to her, though.
He told Polly he had a minister to marry them.
Yeah, he had another girl pregnant, I bet.
And he told her to get her wedding dress and to meet him on the White Rocks.
Ooh.
Despite the warnings of Moll Derry or Moll
Don't go, girl. Don't go.
I have goosebumps. Polly was too overjoyed. Again, she's in love. This is the love of her life. He finally is ready to marry her. She followed Philip to the rocks, and there was no minister. The next day, her body was found by children who were searching for blackberries.
Oh.
It is suspected she hit her head with a she was hit in the head with a rock before being thrown or pushed over a cliff.
Well, at least she was dead before she was thrown over.
Well, I don't know if she was dead before she was thrown over.
Well, maybe she was unconscious and she didn't know what was happening after that.
I have bumps. But Philip's family hired a prominent attorney from Pittsburgh due to Philip being the prime suspect. And this douche canoe was acquitted, and he moved to Greene County to avoid public criticism. At the time of Polly's death, she was only 18.
Oh,
just a baby.
Yes. And finally, we're going to do the Lost Children of the Alleghenies. Yeah. The Lost Children of the Alleghenies. This is a pretty well-known story in Pennsylvania. I had no idea that I didn't have any clue about what it was. It took place in April of 1856. It is the most recent legend of Moll Derry. In this story, she is known as Moll Wampler. I don't know. Samuel and Susanna Cox lived in Spruce Hollow.
I have a question.
I
have a question. So she's spanning from the 1700s to the 1800s, late 1800s.
Okay. So it says that it was anywhere from early 1800s.
People did not live 100 years.
Late 1700s to early 1800s.
Okay, but then this one with the children
was 1856. So I mean, it's not really. It's
person.
Well,
maybe it's a ghost or a descendant.
Again, like time, they didn't really have like really good.
No, but I would assume that the last one, the children, that would be more substantiated with history.
Well, yes, but then there's a claim that there was no witch that helped them.
Okay, well, go on. Start your story.
Samuel and Susanna. No, you're okay. Samuel and Susanna Cox lived in Spruce Hollow, and together they had 3 children.
What was her last name?
Cox. C-O-X.
Oh, okay.
Like Cox Market.
Like Cox's
in Monongahela.
In Monongahela, where your brother got kicked out of when he was a baby.
Yes, my grandma said that she would never take us back into Cox Market because my brother was acting a fool.
Cox Market is awesome. They have the best meat.
Yes. Oh, they have really good American cheese.
So she won't take him back because he acted like a fool?
Well, I mean, she's dead now, so no, she's not.
No, that she's definitely not going to take him back.
She said that she would not take him back into Cox Market because he was acting a fool.
Well, of the 3, he was the one you would tell to sit still, and he would just be like, wiggling around. Like the girls, at least I could tell them to sit, and they would be like, yeah.
I just got, you have ants in your pants.
You're too much food.
If God wanted you to sit on your feet, he would have put your feet up.
I didn't say things like that.
No, grandma did. If God wanted you to sit on your feet, he would put your feet. I don't remember. I would always
on your butt. Feet coming out of your butt.
Yes.
I mean, technically, they do come out of your butt if you think about it.
Because I would sit like, I would have my feet up on the seat, and she would always say, "If he wanted you to sit." Yeah. Anyways, there was George, he was 7.
George
There was
Cox.
Joseph Cox, he was 5, and there was a 2-year-old daughter. I don't know her name.
Because
Anita.
girls aren't important, that's why.
Her name is Anita.
Anita Cox.
That's terrible.
I'm sorry.
During breakfast, Samuel's hunting dog started barking, and he went out to search for whatever the dog had found. And the boys stayed in with Susanna. After cleaning up, however, the boys had slipped out. You turn your back for 5 minutes, and they slipped out. Susanna assumed that they were going and catching up with their dad, and later in the evening, Samuel returned home, but the boys were not with him. Samuel had assumed that the boys were still with Susanna, while Susanna had assumed that the boys were with him. So, a search party was formed. Locals believed the couple killed the boys. The locals were adamant that these two killed the boys and, did whatever, or the boys had been killed by a wild animal. After 2 weeks with no luck, Moll Derry, again who is known as Moll Wampler, was sought out to help find the boys. She did describe a somewhat vague area and was found to have her details wrong. She thought the boys were sleeping and saw mountain tea berries that the boys had been eating. However, when searching for the boys, it was found that she was wrong. And then, depending on the sources and retellings, angry locals either beat Moll Derry to death or they just viciously beat her. But she was beat, and she was beat viciously, or she was beaten to death. The boys' bodies were found by other supernatural means, though. Not her, but another way of supernatural means. It was found they had only passed away 4 days prior to being found.
They starved to death.
They were alive and
for 2 weeks, over 2 weeks.
Out in April, which is not.
Ooh. Well, it depends on the April. Yeah. Some Aprils are warmer than others.
So could Moll Derry have been right in one way? Could they have actually been sleeping and survived off of mountain berries? Because I'm sure Samuel taught them, this is good to eat, this is bad to eat. If you don't know it, don't eat it. And even though they're young, I'm assuming that they had some kind of idea of what to look for or how to survive in case. I'm sure they went hunting with
they
Dad.
were farmers or something. Yeah.
Could she have seen them before they died, and could they have actually been sleeping when she saw them? You don't know.
So the children are only the 2 boys, not the girl?
The girl doesn't know. The girl, it's just the boys.
Just the boys. Oh, okay. That's why they didn't name the girl, because she's not part of the story, really.
There is a statue for the boy, or not a statue. There is a memorial for the boys. This is a legitimate story, and so is Polly Williams. They are two. You can go on Find a Grave and find her grave, and you can go to White Rock. I go a little deeper into it. I just told you the story, but it is 100%. It's hard to pinpoint the accuracy of these stories 100% and the claims of witchery, but Moll Derry was a real person. So she was born between 1760 and 1768. So it's unlikely that she was in the Children of the Appalachian, or the missing children.
In 1850s. Yeah.
It is unlikely. But she married a Jacob Derry or Valentine Derry. Together, they had 7 children, and her oldest son was named Basil, spelled Basil or Bazil.
Oh, like basil, like the plant.
Yes.
I love
Then
it.
Then there was Jacob, Barbara, Philip, Jeremiah, Rhoda, and Mary.
Mary.
Yes. Moll was often reported in newspapers as the fortune teller of the American Revolution, and is also often associated with a type of magic called divination. And she is known for, I'm going to butcher how to say this. English is my first language, and that's the only language I speak, but I cannot pronounce things right, apparently. Tasseography? Reading tea leaves.
Oh, okay.
Did I say that right? You don't know.
I don't know.
I have no idea.
Okay, well, she reads tea leaves. So, the first time I learned any of this was in Prisoner of Azkaban, where Professor Trelawney is like, look into the future. And then they have the teacups, and she was like, my dear boy, you have the Grim. Yeah, anyway.
People they do read coffee, like coffee grounds
They
on the
do.
bottom.
They do. No, they really, really do. But that's the first time I had ever heard of it. But in Harry Potter, they didn't give it a name. But reading tea leaves, essentially. A surviving will compiled by Moll Derry on May 15th, 1843, before her death on June 17th that same year, is able to be found.
Okay, so we know she died in 1843, so she was definitely dead before the Children of the Appalachians.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
She's just associated with it. I don't know.
Well, maybe her daughter Mary was the one who.
Well, we will never have a definite answer as to Moll Derry's involvement in the stories. But the people in the stories were, in fact, real. So, like I said in my genealogy, I love deep diving into this. So I deep dived into this a little bit. The horrific ending of Polly Williams faced, or the horrific endings that Polly Williams faced, is in fact true and able to be traced. Her grave is located in Little White Rock Cemetery, and her tombstone reads, behold you with pity, those who pass by, here doth the bones of Polly Williams lie, who was stolen away in her youthful bloom by a vile wretch, her presumed groom.
I want a poem on my tombstone.
There was a little boy in the graveyard across from our old house, and it says his name and whatever, and it said his death date and stuff, and then it says, now let me sleep. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
His name was John.
Was it?
Mm-hmm.
Big bad John.
Well, speaking of John McFall is also able to be traced. And when I tell you I let out a screech when I found this, he did in fact hang on March 7th, 1975 for murder. I found the list of hangings that he was on. And I tell you I screeched.
1975, like
1795, I'm sorry.
Oh, 1795. Oh, I thought you said 1975.
I might have.
What?
Because Moll Derry passed away in 1843, the likelihood of her being involved in the story of the lost children of the Alleghenies is unpromising. However, the story is able to be corroborated, and there are monuments dedicated to the boys, which, like I said, it is believed that the witch involved in the story of the lost children of the Alleghenies was named Moll Dell, a witch with less historical information than Moll Derry. So they're saying Moll Derry is her, then they're saying Moll Derry isn't her. There was a lot of who knows. So I have some fun facts to end my episode because that was pretty much the end of all my information. The book, let me get this real quick. I'm gonna put in like a, I don't know, song or something. It is The Witch of Monongahela. Um, Folk Magic in Early Western Pennsylvania by Thomas White. Um, so like I said, when you think of witches, you think of them from Salem and New England. They are probably the most commonly linked with witchcraft. However, Pennsylvania and Maryland, and West Virginia have more accounts of witchcraft than Massachusetts.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, everybody came over from the old world, you know, and
I think it's so cool.
kitchen
You
witch.
think of everybody wants to go to like Salem, which I mean I do want to
Well,
go to
that's
Salem,
because of the witch trials that happened there.
right, because the witch trials didn't happen in Pennsylvania.
Right.
We're not associated with witchcraft. Pennsylvania has a lot of little known accounts of witchcraft, and almost every county actually has a story, at least one story. I found nothing in Franklin County, but Pennsylvania is home to hundreds of instances of alleged witchcraft. Yeah. Basil's daughter, Barbara Roseanne, was known as a local healer among her community. So that's, I think it
She
was
passed
Moll
it
Derry.
down.
She did pass it down. She did. Possibly following in her grandmother's footsteps.
Possibly.
Witches were often female, but was not always exclusive to females, which we know from the Salem witch trials. A female was just more likely to be called a witch.
Right.
It wasn't always.
Witch,
Yes, it wasn't always. They're out flying or whatever. Sometimes they would have like a herbal cure for something, and because they did that, that was automatically labeled a witch. You were
well, and
automatically
they were midwives and stuff too.
Yes, because of that, they were labeled.
Well, if something went wrong, it was somebody's fault, and it would be that crazy woman that has like the 50 cats.
Yes, it's the crazy
and the
lady that
in her
gave
garden.
it was a crazy lady that gave you a pillow full of lavender because you were having trouble falling asleep and staying calm. Yeah. William Penn presided over a witch trial in the earliest of days, and it set the precedent for how witch trials would be handled in Pennsylvania. He once asked a woman if she had ever flown a broom through the air because of a language barrier. She said yes.
Well, or maybe she's just sarcastic.
Maybe. William Penn reportedly replied, this is great. William Penn replied, there is no law against riding through the air on the broomstick.
Go, William Penn! You're my new hero.
I know. Thank you. Moll Derry is the most famous of witches in western Pennsylvania, and her story is also confused with other 3 witches, including Moll Derry. Rhonda Derry, the daughter of Jacob Derry, Moll Derry's granddaughter, helped change the way mentally ill practices were handled state and nationwide.
Yeah. Good job.
Yeah,
nice.
I have. Yeah. Rhoda Derry, she was not treated very well, I guess.
Was she mentally ill? She was in one of those facilities.
She was put into a psychiatric house, and she was not treated very well. And she helped change the way that was, or how it's all handled and practiced.
Wow.
Yeah. So
cool.
That's all I have.
It was good.
Thanks. I wish I would have had more, but I thought this was going to be a short episode.
It's okay. We've done a couple long ones lately, so.
That's true. Yeah.
Perfect.
Now I want to deep dive into Salem. I mean, I know a decent amount about Salem, but
Well, that'll be easy one for you to do then.
it would be easy.
Seems like we've been doing a lot of like Massachusetts.
I know. We just did your episode in Massachusetts. Well, this one's not Massachusetts. This one's Pennsylvania. This is Monongahela.
Yeah.
I wonder if the Cox, Samuel, and Susanna, I think her name is. I wonder if they're any relationship to the people at Cox Market.
It's not a very common name.
No, it's really not. And it's a family establishment, so
Maybe.
maybe we'll never know. All right.
Good job.
You did
Thanks.
great.
Thanks. You can follow us on Instagram, on TikTok, right? Okay. TikTok, Facebook. Did I already say it? I don't know. It's 9 o'clock at night. YouTube, you can see the video of this. I will try to add some pictures to it, but like, share, subscribe on YouTube. Give us some love. Share us with your friends. Tell everybody about us.
Share the love.
Share the love. If you have any requests, let us know too. I'm sure we'd love to look into some of that. Except for Queen Bee, she likes to march to the beat of her own drum.
I do.
Yeah,
Oh,
she
Queen.
does. All right. Well, I'm gonna get off and go back to reading.
Okay.
You gotta go. Try not to fall asleep.
Okay. Peace out.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.